Welcome to Biggest Spoilars, the destination for exclusive spoilers, latest updates.
General Hospital recap for Tuesday, October 28, reveals that Martin Gray hovered Veronica Ronnie barred with jail time. Carly Spencer also arranged Valentine Cassidy's, so then's how all Tuesday's drama went down. At Jordan Ashford's place, she revealed that Portia Robinson's gestation was the reason she couldn't be with Curtis Ashford. Jordan explained how she connected the blotches, so Curtis was thankful to her for discovering the baby news and dashed off to find Portia. At Isaiah Gannon's cabin, he handed Portia a glass of wine and left her looking uncomfortable. Isaiah and Portia landed in bed together, but he got called to the sanitarium and left the cabin key with her while she awaited on him. Once Isaiah made it to GH, Curtis ran into the croaker. While he was there on his Portia hunt. In Anna Devane's office, Jack Brennan said her request to visit Valentine Cassidy had been denied. Anna still wanted to team up with Brennan, but lack of trust was still a problem for him. That said, Brennan did offer up a little word from Valentine since this was indeed a Faison-related design and there was a connection to Jen Sidwell. At the Metro Court, Jason Morgan brazened Carly since she'd been avoiding him. Carly played down that idea before facing Jason's questions about why she hadn't revealed anything to Jocelyn Jacks or Brennan. After Carly refocused out that Jason told her not to, he was skeptical that Carly would actually hear to him. Carly eventually claimed that Joss wouldn't hear to her moreover and suggested she'd just end up driving her son down. As for Jack, Carly principally argued that making Jack suppose they still had a happy relationship would cover Jocelyn, but Jason bothered Brennan could find out he was getting played. Once Brennan appeared and noticed the pressure, Jason took off. Brennan quizzed Carly, who admitted Jason was still giving her an earful about her swain. Jack scrabbled to find out if Jason had told Carly anything specific, but she acted like he hadn't. Talk turned to Lulu Spencer not letting Charlotte Cassidy have any further visits with Valentine. Carly claimed it was because the Switzerland passages were too far and would be disruptive to Charlotte's life. Still, Carly suggested there was an easy fix that would allow further Charlotte visits so Brennan could pry further word out of Valentine. All Brennan had to do was get Valentine transferred to a WSB captivity near to home. Meanwhile, Jason showed up in Anna's office and claimed they had to get Jocelyn out of the WSB. Anna didn't view that as a possibility, but she did suppose they could maybe make sure Jocelyn worked under someone differently who didn't give her similar dangerous operations. Anna also gave Jason updates on what she'd learned from Brennan about Sidwell's link to Faison's design. Back at the Metro Court, Ned Quartermaine and Olivia Quartermaine talked to Tracy Quartermaine about making peace with Ronnie, but Tracy refused at first. Nonetheless, Ned induced Tracy that she should at least pretend to make peace so she could get back under the Quartermaine roof. Michael Corinthos ultimately joined the table and agreed, but first he took Jacinda Bracken to Crimson. Outside Nina Reeves' door, Jacinda had enterprises about going to Nina for a job since she paid for Drew Kane's drugging. In Nina's office, Ava Jerome advised her not to do anything additional that might make matters worse for Willow Tate. Once Michael entered, he suggested he'd set up Nina a new adjunct. Jacinda stepped forward, so Nina flipped out and shut down the idea. Michael argued with Nina, but Ava piped up to play adjudicator and got Nina to calm down. Nina agreed Jacinda could have the job and started barking orders to her. In a moment alone with Jacinda, Nina wondered how important Michael was paying her to be his justification. As Nina reached for her checkbook, she made it clear that she was a veritably fat woman and was ready to pay Jacinda off. At the cabin again, Portia got Ava on the phone and asked where she was. Ava said she was at the Metro Court, so Portia decided to go see her there. At the Quartermaine manse, Martin felt confident he could change Ronnie's mind about dealing the house to Drew. Once Martin was alone with Ronnie in the living room, she snapped at him since someone could discover their alliance. Martin claimed he'd elicit reason for being there on behalf of his customer. Ronnie rode with Martin, who said she'd still be staying tables if he hadn't changed Monica Quartermaine's will. Although Ronnie hadn't been open to the idea at first, she had called Martin back to move forward with the plan after meeting awful Tracy. Indeed so, Ronnie didn't want to vend the house to Drew and felt all this had gone too far. Martin argued that he kept his own hands clean, so Ronnie was the bone. Who could end up in captivity for fraud? After Martin reiterated that Ronnie demanded to vend the manse to Drew, he was gone by the time Michael, Ned, Olivia, and Tracy arrived. Once Tracy pretended she was ready to make peace, Ronnie backed her up on the idea of everyone demanding a fresh lunch. After Ronnie admitted she was dealing the house, that advertisement transferred shockwaves. General Hospital spoilers say Ronnie and Tracy have another heated battle coming up, so don't miss what's in store. The air in Port Charles is thick with unspoken truths and simmering tensions. On a Tuesday that would prove pivotal for many of the city's residents, alliances were tested, secrets threatened to bubble to the surface, and the specter of past sins loomed large. This was a day where comforting words were offered in quiet moments, while in others, angry threats were hissed behind closed doors, setting the stage for confrontations that would reshape futures. At the heart of it all were two powerful, dueling forces, the desperate need for connection and the corrosive power of deception. A painful truth unveiled, Jordan's sacrifice and Curtis's epiphany. The day began with a moment of profound emotional clarity at the home of Police Commissioner Jordan Ashford. The weight of a long-held secret had become too much for her to bear, and in a conversation heavy with regret and resolve, she finally unburdened herself to her ex-husband, Curtis Ashford. The subject was the seemingly insurmountable obstacle that had ultimately shattered their marriage, his renewed connection with Dr. Portia Robinson. Jordan, with a detective's calm precision and a woman's aching heart, laid out the facts for Curtis. She explained how she had connected the dots, piecing together timelines and unspoken truths until the undeniable picture came into focus. The reason she felt she could not fully fight for their relationship, the invisible wall that had stood between them, was Portia's pregnancy. This wasn't merely a matter of a past flame, it was the creation of a lifelong bond, a child that would forever tie Curtis to another woman. Jordan, in a devastating act of love and self-sacrifice, believed that Curtis's destiny and responsibilities now lay with Portia and their unborn child. Curtis, who had been navigating a labyrinth of confusion and hurt, was struck by the sheer magnitude of this revelation. The fog of his fractured relationships began to lift. His gratitude toward Jordan was immense and humbling. She had given him not just an answer, but a direction. The woman he had loved had cared for him enough to set him free, even if it meant breaking her own heart in the process. With a renewed sense of purpose and a torrent of emotions, Curtis dashed out of Jordan's home, his singular mission clear: he had to find Portia. He needed to see her, to talk to her, to finally address the elephant in the room that had grown too large to ignore. A cabin of regret, Portia's uneasy sanctuary. Meanwhile, miles away from the escalating drama of the city, Dr. Portia Robinson found herself in a setting that was supposed to be a peaceful retreat but had become a prison of her own anxiety. She was at the secluded cabin of Dr. Isaiah Gannon, a colleague and the man with whom she had shared a recent, complicated, and regrettable night. The rustic charm of the cabin did little to soothe her restless spirit. Isaiah, perhaps trying to normalize the awkwardness between them, handed her a glass of wine, a simple gesture that only seemed to highlight the complexity of their situation. Portia accepted the glass, her discomfort palpable. She was a woman caught between two worlds, the stable, respected life she had built and this new, unpredictable reality where a single night of poor judgment had monumental consequences. When Isaiah was called away to the hospital for an emergency, the atmosphere shifted again. He left her the cabin key, an invitation to wait for his return, but for Portia, it felt more like a key to a cage of her own making. Alone with her thoughts, the silence of the woods was deafening, amplifying the voice of her conscience. This solitary moment was shattered by the ring of her phone. Seeing Ava Jerome's name on the screen was a lifeline to her old life. Their conversation was brief, but hearing that Ava was at the bustling Metro Court Hotel was all the impetus Portia needed. The cabin, with its lingering memories, was suddenly suffocating. Deciding she needed the comfort and distraction of a friend, she resolved to leave the woods behind and head to the Metro Court, seeking solace in the familiar chaos of the city. Dangerous alliances, Anna, Brennan, and the ghost of Faison. At the WSB, the atmosphere was one of cold, institutional tension. Agent Anna Devane, a woman whose life has been a tapestry of espionage and personal tragedy, received a disheartening update from the formidable Jack Brennan. Her formal request to visit the incarcerated Valentine Cassadine had been flatly denied. This was a significant setback for Anna, who believed Valentine held crucial pieces to a puzzle that threatened not only national security but the safety of people she cared about. Anna, ever the strategist, pivoted to her secondary plan, proposing a formal team-up with Brennan. She appealed to his professional interests, framing it as a mutually beneficial arrangement to uncover a larger conspiracy. However, Brennan, a man who trusts no one and operates in a world of shadows and half-truths, was deeply skeptical. The lack of trust was a two-way street, but Brennan held the power, and he was not inclined to share the driver's seat. Yet, in a move that demonstrated his own complex agenda, Brennan offered Anna a tantalizing breadcrumb of information. He revealed that the intelligence he was gathering from Valentine was indeed connected to a project once helmed by the notorious Caesar Faison, a name that sent a chill down Anna's spine. Even more intriguing was the link to Jen Sidwell, a powerful and enigmatic corporate entity. This was not random intel, it was a calculated leak, designed to gauge Anna's reaction and perhaps draw her further into his web without him having to cede any real control. Brennan was playing a long game, and Anna knew she had to be careful not to become one of his pawns. A mother's calculated risk, Carly's high-stakes deception. The lobby of the Metro Court Hotel, usually a place of glamorous gossip and business deals, became the stage for a tense confrontation. Jason Morgan, a man of few words but unwavering loyalty, finally cornered Carly Spencer. He had noticed her evasive behavior and was determined to get answers. His primary concern was the dangerous game she was playing by keeping secrets from two very important people, her daughter, Jocelyn Jacks, and her boyfriend, the very dangerous Jack Brennan. Carly, a master of deflection, initially tried to downplay Jason's concerns. But he was relentless, pressing her on why she hadn't confided in Jocelyn about Brennan's true nature or revealed to Brennan that she knew he was using her. In a moment of brilliant, if frustrating, logic, Carly pointed out that Jason himself had told her not to say anything. Her retort was laced with a hint of sarcasm, since when did she ever listen to him? Jason's skepticism was warranted, a directive from him had never stopped a determined Carly Spencer before. She then launched into her defense, her voice a mixture of maternal fear and strategic calculation. Regarding Jocelyn, Carly argued that telling her the truth about Brennan would be futile. Jocelyn, headstrong and independent, would likely not believe her mother and would instead be driven further into Brennan's arms, viewing Carly as trying to control her life. It was a risk she couldn't take. As for Brennan, her reasoning was even more perilous. She contended that by maintaining the facade of a happy, trusting girlfriend, she created a protective shield around Jocelyn. If Brennan believed Carly was fooled, he would have no reason to see Jocelyn as a threat or a tool to be manipulated against her mother. It was a mother's desperate gamble, pretend to be the fool to outsmart the monster. Jason, whose life has been built on assessing threat levels, worried that Brennan was too sharp, too paranoid, to be fooled for long. If he discovered he was being played, the fallout would be catastrophic for both Carly and Jocelyn. Their heated discussion was abruptly halted by the arrival of the man himself. Jack Brennan, ever perceptive, immediately noted the tension between Carly and Jason. With a terse goodbye, Jason made a strategic exit, leaving Carly to face her boyfriend's probing questions alone. Brennan, his voice deceptively calm, quizzed Carly about her conversation with Jason. With the skill of a seasoned actress, Carly admitted that Jason was still giving her a hard time about her relationship, a believable cover story that played on Brennan's knowledge of their complicated history. Brennan, ever the interrogator, fished for more, wondering if Jason had shared any specific concerns. Carly held her ground, insisting it was just the same old complaints. Seizing the initiative, she then steered the conversation toward Valentine Cassadine, presenting a problem and a solution designed to serve Brennan's interests. She mentioned that Lulu Spencer was refusing to allow Charlotte to visit her father in Switzerland, citing the distance and disruption. Then, Carly offered her easy fix: if Brennan used his influence to have Valentine transferred to a WSB prison closer to Port Charles, Charlotte could visit more frequently, giving Brennan more opportunities to extract information from a father softened by time with his daughter. It was a masterstroke, making Brennan believe the idea was his for the taking while furthering her own secret agenda to undermine him. A refuge sought, Jason and Anna's strategic countermove. After his tense meeting with Carly, Jason Morgan headed straight for Anna Devane's office, a place that had become a makeshift war room in their private battle against Brennan. Jason, a man of action, cut straight to the chase. He insisted that they had to find a way to extract Jocelyn from the WSB entirely. He saw her position there as a sitting duck in a shooting range, her every move potentially putting her in the crosshairs of Brennan's enemies or Brennan himself. Anna, the seasoned spymaster, was pragmatic. She explained that pulling Jocelyn out completely was likely impossible without raising Brennan's suspicions to a dangerous level. However, she proposed a more subtle, yet potentially effective, alternative. They could work within the system to ensure Jocelyn was reassigned to a different superior, one who wouldn't hand her high-risk, phase-on-related missions. It was a bureaucratic solution to a life-and-death problem, but it was a start. Anna then updated Jason on her disturbing conversation with Brennan, confirming the Faison-Sidwell connection. This new piece of intelligence solidified their fears. They weren't just dealing with a rogue WSB agent, they were untangling a conspiracy with roots in one of the most villainous chapters of their past. The stakes were now higher than ever, and the need to protect Jocelyn, while simultaneously dismantling Brennan's operation, became their shared, urgent mission. A family at war, peace pretenses and a shocking betrayal. Elsewhere in the Metro Court, the Quartermaine family was embroiled in its own unique brand of drama. Ned and Olivia Quartermaine were attempting to broker a fragile peace between the indomitable Tracy Quartermaine and the woman who had turned their world upside down, Veronica Ronnie Bard. Tracy, still seething from being ousted from her own home, wanted no part of any reconciliation. Her pride was wounded, and her fury was white-hot. Ned, the voice of reason, appealed to his aunt's strategic mind. He didn't ask for genuine forgiveness, but for a strategic performance. He convinced Tracy that pretending to make peace with Ronnie was the only way to get back inside the Quartermaine mansion, to be on the ground where she could potentially uncover Ronnie's game and fight for her home from the inside. It was a distasteful but necessary tactic, and Tracy, though reluctant, finally agreed to play her part. Michael Corinthos arrived and added his weight to the plan, agreeing that this was the most pragmatic path forward. Before this familial summit could begin, however, a clandestine meeting had already taken place behind the mansion's closed doors. Martin Gray, the suave and slippery lawyer, had confronted his co-conspirator, Ronnie. The tension between them was immediate. Ronnie snapped at Martin, fearful that their alliance would be discovered. Martin, ever the picture of calm legality, insisted he had a perfectly legitimate reason for being there, representing a client's interests. Their whispered argument was a glimpse into a partnership built on sand. Martin reminded Ronnie of her origins, cruelly pointing out that she'd still be waiting tables if not for his scheme to alter Monica Quartermaine's will. While Ronnie had initially been hesitant, her encounter with the awful Tracy had convinced her to call Martin back and move forward. Now, however, faced with the reality of selling the family home to Drew Kane, she was having a crisis of conscience. She felt things had gone too far. It was then that Martin dropped his friendly facade and issued a cold, angry threat. He calmly informed Ronnie that he had kept his own hands clean throughout their entire enterprise. The fraud, the deception, it was all traceable back to her. If this scheme collapsed, he warned, she would be the one facing prison time, while he would walk away unscathed. It was a brutal reminder of the power imbalance in their relationship and the dire consequences of her actions. After reiterating his command that she must sell the mansion to Drew, Martin departed, leaving a shaken and trapped Ronnie in his wake. When the Quartermaine family arrived, the stage was set for an Oscar-worthy performance. Tracy, swallowing her immense pride, offered a strained olive branch to Ronnie. To everyone's surprise, Ronnie eagerly backed the idea of a fresh start, her enthusiasm perhaps fueled by a desperate desire to appear benevolent before dropping her bombshell. And drop it she did. With the family assembled, Ronnie announced her intention to sell the Quartermaine mansion. The announcement sent shockwaves through the room. Ned, Olivia, Michael, and a silently fuming Tracy were left reeling. The heart of their family, their ancestral home, was now on the auction block, and the architect of this betrayal was smiling sweetly in their midst. A job offer with strings, Nina's wary welcome. Michael Corinthos, multitasking the various crises in his life, also took a moment to address the situation with Jacinda Bracken. Believing he had found the perfect solution, he brought Jacinda to Crimson magazine with the intention of securing her a job as Nina Reeves's new assistant. It was a move designed to provide Jacinda with stability while also keeping a friendly, trustworthy face close to the volatile Nina. Outside Nina's office, however, Jacinda expressed her deep reservations. She was acutely aware of Nina's recent history, specifically her involvement in paying for the drug that was used on Drew Kane. Aligning herself with such a person felt morally ambiguous and personally risky. Inside the office, the atmosphere was already charged. Ava Jerome, who has a complicated friendship with Nina, was there playing the role of concerned confidant. She warned Nina in no uncertain terms to avoid any further actions that could worsen her already precarious standing with her daughter, Willow Tate. When Michael entered with Jacinda in tow and proposed the new hire, Nina's reaction was immediate and explosive. She flipped out, shutting down the idea with a ferocity that stunned everyone present. Michael, never one to back down, argued with her, pointing out Jacinda's qualifications and the logic of the decision. It was Ava who stepped in as the referee, using her calming influence to talk Nina down from her emotional ledge. She appealed to Nina's better nature, reminding her of the need for normalcy and positive steps. Finally, and with obvious reluctance, Nina agreed. She could barely muster a civil welcome before she began barking orders at Jacinda, establishing a dynamic of boss and subordinate that was clearly intended to be harsh. The moment she got Jacinda alone, Nina's true suspicions surfaced. In a low, pointed tone, she wondered aloud how much Michael was paying Jacinda to be his alibi, clearly believing this was all an elaborate setup to spy on her. As she reached for her checkbook, Nina, in a display of both her wealth and her paranoia, made it explicitly clear that she was a very wealthy woman and was perfectly prepared to pay Jacinda off to go away and leave her life untouched. The job at Crimson was not going to be a simple fresh start, it was the newest battlefield in Port Charles's ongoing war of nerves. The calm before the storm. As the sun set on Port Charles, the characters were left to grapple with the consequences of the day's events. Curtis was on a desperate search for a pregnant Portia, who was fleeing a cabin of regret. Carly was walking a razor's edge beside a man who could destroy her, while Jason and Anna plotted in the shadows to save her daughter. The Quartermain family was left shell-shocked by Ronnie's announcement, unaware of the lawyer's angry threats that had forced her hand. And Nina Reeves had just hired an assistant she deeply mistrusted, setting the stage for a new front in her cold war with Michael. The baptism by fire had begun for many. Encouraging words of sacrifice and strategy had been spoken, but they were drowned out by the echo of angry threats, from a lawyer promising prison, a mother risking everything, and a spymaster playing with lives. The drama of Tuesday, October 28, was merely the prelude. The promises of heated confrontations and shocking revelations ensured that the quiet in Port Charles was only temporary, a deep breath before the next, inevitable storm.